This is an audio and indie animation panel I hosted at Momocon in 2025, which has a preview and breakdown of the dialogue I edited for episode 5 of Monkey Wrench. So if you're watching this before September 26, 2025, when we have our public release, go watch it early on Patreon for just $1. Also, disclaimer, this is the first panel I've ever hosted, so I may have gotten some technical details wrong. The Q&A is also omitted due to some technical issues with the recording. Hello and welcome to Audio and Indie Animation. My name is Stephen Rigsby and I'm a voice actor and sound designer. Worked on things like Undertale Yellow, Legend of Pipi, Ina Dream Barbecue, and today I want to take you through really getting started in audio, or just looking through the process as a whole. We're going to look at voice acting, we're going to look at sound design with some breakdowns, and we're going to look a little bit at mixing. All of these subjects are very robust, so can't squeeze it all down into an hour. But I'm also going to have a lot of time at the end, or hopefully a lot of time at the end, for any questions that you might have. So take notes, or don't. You don't need to take it too seriously here, because this audio is weird. It's daunting to get into. It's nerve-wracking when there's no visuals and there's a whole bunch of acoustic sciences and you have a little panic attack and fears later. You come back and go, oh, I just wanted to make something stupid. That makes it way easier. That being said, I need to establish a tone. I made this with my partner, who made the visuals. I then made audio, including screaming into the microphone. Make dumb little garbage things, and sometimes it gets a lot more fun when you can just... Anyway, before I start, who am I? These are a couple of the different roles that I played on top and films that I've worked on the bottom, and one video game. Clicker, Desert Mayhem Overdrive, and Undertale Yellow, and Legend of Pipi were all in 2022, I believe. As far as my roles go, there's Pipi, where it's just... There's the king, who is incredibly sad that his daughter has been captured by dragon. There's Miss Dragon, which is just me going and there's Skipjack. Not a lot of people know who Skipjack is, but that's fine.
Then there is the suspicious man from the game that recently came out.
And then there's Bunrako Man, who screams every single one of his lines. And he's meant to be the happiest creature you've ever seen in your life. Anyway, from here in Atlanta, Georgia, I got a BA in Media Studies. I was a Italian-style barista, disaster relief worker, podcast producer for digital marketing for a while, and I'm also an Eagle Scout. And I like to make drawings, just like this. Your microphone will look like this one day, whether you realize it or not. Your spit will be imbued within that device. Why did I get into it? I love animation in games. And ever since one of my brother's friends installed a cracked version of Macromedia Flash 6 on my mom's terrible little chunky computer in the dining room, I've always wanted to make cartoons. I found out, however, my hands are not wonderful, and it's really hard drawing over and over again when you can't hold the pencil for, longer than maybe 3 hours at a time at most. Eventually, puberty hit my voice like a freight train, and while working at Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru and going, America runs on Dunkin', how can I help you? People will come up and go, I want to hear you on the radio all day. And I went, oh, maybe I can do cartoons then, if that's the case, if people like it. So I started with stupid little audiobooks on SoundCloud, and just personal amusement. Bit of college radio liners when I was at my university, which is Kennesaw State, and getting into podcast producing. Slowly building up the skills over time, and it led to me eventually working on Legend of Pipi, which was my first break-in role, I would say. And through that network of people and just being pleasant to work with and being receptive to feedback, just kind of stumbling into this 3 years ago. I don't think anybody would have ever showed up to this panel because I did not have any of this work. Anyway, we're going to go into a bit of diving into audio, some acoustics and terminology, bit of voice acting, bit of sound design, some examples of each. We're gonna take a little sneakity peekity at Monkey Wrench, since I'm working as the dialogue editor on episode 5. Yes, Zarel's been fantastic to work with, love the team. I actually auditioned for a couple of characters a few years ago, so to be editing their dialogue now is really funny to me. And I'll have some recommended resources and a Q&A at the end. So, acoustic sciences. Sound is literally just mechanical energy waves. It is transferring through a physical medium. The air, water, this table itself, it's transferring from the medium of hitting the impact here, then going into the air, and then going to your ears, which then hits the physical part of your eardrum, which is the same kind of diaphragm as a microphone, and then it registers a sound. A whisper and a nuclear explosion are the exact same thing, just massively different scales. And the audio frequency spectrum is made up of everything from the very, very low end that you can barely hear to the very high end you can barely hear. So at your lower end, so 20 hertz roughly, is where you're going to have lots of bass. Your mids are going to be somewhere between 100 to about, I would say 800, depending on which subject you have. And everything that you're hearing right now is in that. You're hearing a lot of the bass frequencies as I get closer to this, but you're also now starting to hear more of the high frequencies because there's something amplifying it through that speaker directly to you. Anyway. We're going to get a little bit more into terminology. I hate this stuff too. Don't worry. You do need to know it, though, if you want to do more of this. Reflections is when something bounces off something. Reverb is just when you hear a bunch of reflections and it sounds like what other people would call echo. And you treat your spaces by having this porous material, like, say, blankets or pillows or even the clothes in your closet or proper acoustic panels. Anything that you can yell into and you don't hear your voice reflecting back, that stuff can help treat your recording environment, and you can make something workable in a pinch for an indie production. And acoustics is the science concerned with the production, control, transmission, reception, and effects of sound. Sometimes I don't think about these terms, so don't worry about getting them down 100%. But do know that decibels is the measurement for the intensity of sound in a signal, and it's measured in negative numbers. Say -12 is quieter than -6. Once you hit 0, you hit unity. That's when you start clipping stuff and you start getting fried audio. And there's digital audio workstations, which is the software that you're going to use to record, edit, and produce audio. There's tons of them. There's Audacity, there's Reaper, there's Logic, there's Pro Tools, everything in between. Now that we've got all the boring technical crap out of the way, most of it, thinking creatively. I've found that as somebody who draws, writes, voice acts, sound designs, and mixes, something that's important to note is that you can apply your creative principles from any of these disciplines to any of the others in order to just try to figure out how to demystify and deconstruct them. Think of a lot of these mediums as emotional peaks and valleys with volume, the emotions, the pacing, the intensity of like vibrance of colors, anything that you can think of, because you don't want everything all the time, all at once. You need to sort of let yourself in, let buildup happen, have there be a payoff, get that dopamine release. Or maybe it's not dopamine. Maybe you want to feel cortisol. Maybe you're doing something scary. But yeah, and think about the tone of something. You have character or attitude of the story, a performance, the sound design, the music, and the overall piece. Something like Ed, Edd n Eddy is going to have the tone of wacky exuberance, and something like, I don't know, The Fox and the Hound is going to be about making you sad but still being a core childhood memory film. You want to try to break down and analyze whatever subject you're looking at. In terms of, let's say, for example, voice acting, what kind of emotion do you want? Do you want sadness as your negative emotion? Or do you want sadness and a little bit of confusion? Sadness, a little bit of confusion and anger, just grasping at straws. Maybe he's hurt a little bit, exasperated, just emotionally done. Any specific feelings like just malice towards the other person you're looking at right in front of you? None of you, don't worry. And then if there's any unique aspects, like, for example, if you're looking at, say, Ed, Edd n Eddy has the most ridiculous sound design you've ever heard. Car crashes for every single impact, honks, weird chickens in the distance in order to give a sense of awkwardness. And then in complete contrast, you have something like Half-Life 2, where the G-Man will just sit there and make weird noises at you as uncomfortably as possible. Analyze whatever grabs your fancy or doesn't grab your fancy, deconstruct what you do or don't like about it. So, for voice acting, recording techniques are something that a lot of people just don't want to mess with too much, but 6 to 12 inches from the microphone at mouth level roughly, so the diaphragm's like right here. Please use a pop filter. Right now, I'm not using a pop filter, so you can hear every little plosive that smacks into the diaphragm and feels awful to be on the receiving end of. Have a retreated recording space. Don't record in a cave or a bathroom. I will cry. And reduce noises as much as possible. Drink a lot of water. Turn off the air conditioning. Tell your little brother to be quiet for 5 minutes. And avoid wearing the world's loudest clothing and accessories. When you're getting ready to record, yell as loud as you can and then go look at your decibel meter on your recording software. And if it says -12 or around there, good. You now have enough headroom to scream way louder than you were anticipating so you can lean fully into the performance without worrying that you're going to lose it. And we'll always pull up the old stuff at the end. So don't worry about messing with the gain too much unless you just need to decrease it. Because, hey, that's how we get your noise profile in order to remove the noise from you. We analyze your empty space. But yeah, your voice is unique. No matter what you sound like, no matter who you are, no matter what your preconceptions about your voice are, you are going to have aspects to it that make it shine for a particular kind of character. There's a lot of upper range characters that I cannot do, but other people are very adept at. People who think, maybe I don't like the way that I sound so high-pitched, or I don't like how I sound nasally. Nah, there would be a good character for you to play. Do not worry, my friend. I'm jealous that I get stuck in villain roles all the time. I lie to myself. I do want to try to get more roles outside of it, but you know, it is what it is. And act with intent, channeling your emotions, not what you remember seeing from your influences, but what you feel, how you behave, because the way that you behave and sound is going to add so much to that character that other people won't be able to replicate as easily. Patrick Warburton's got a very nonchalant tone, but it works for him. You can match his timbre, but can you actually get all of his mannerisms down? No, that's always going to be a piece of him. Draw from your inspirations and break down your characters. Some of mine are things like the voice acting and sound design from Team Fortress 2, very striking and unique characters. Love Mad Max Fury Road for its over-the-top characters and occasional grounded moments. Command & Conquer Red Alert 2 because I love industrial metal so much, oh my god. And then YouTube poop because there's nothing quite as funny as brain rot. There's nothing quite as funny as pretending that you're funny and then pretending that you're funny. Because when you end on the wrong inflection on your sentence, nobody can really understand what you're about to say next. Wow. That part of you that feels embarrassed, self-conscious that you're playing a character or doing a silly voice, 20,000-pound hydraulic pressing. You've probably seen that video of the little alligator toy that just explodes into a powder. That's you killing whatever judgment other people have had or yourself have had at you. They suck. Don't worry about it. You're in a jester suit. You're playing toys with your voice. So start dancing, Jester. Every day I wake up, I listen to myself and I'm like, yes, I'm a dignified man. I have never stopped wearing this stupid little black and orange checkered bobble hat with the jingly bells on it the entire time. And then you're probably thinking, creature voice acting, what's the difference? You're the horse girl on the playground now. You need to lean into that energy so hard, it's funny. Unconventional mouth sounds and shapes are going to be your bread and butter of doing any kind of creature voice acting because there's also not a lot of resources out here on this. Every snort, every growl, every groan, screeches, slurps, more. I'm not going to do them all, don't worry. And just even something as simple as pressing the tip of your tongue against the bottom of your teeth and raising the middle portion up to your mouth creates a resonance chamber. So when you're doing an orc voice like this, once you do it, it's able to sound much larger. Takes some practice though. Right now, I'm a little dehydrated. I broke a rule. So that's why I'm not able to do it as well. But creature voices can also be lightly or heavily edited in post. And if you're doing creature acting, lean into it all the way. Get your body into it. Because if you're doing it and leaning into it just shamelessly, this is how you're going to look and feel when you do it right. You're going to look exactly like that. They're gonna be like, I need you to be this horrible kaiju character, okay? If you don't look like that and sound like that, you're not believable. You have to understand, you're the jester now. It is 1450. You are dying of bubonic plague, and the Westminster Baron has looked at your diseased ass and gone, can you do that funny dragon noise for me? And you're like, uh-huh. So, for a breakdown for creature voices, one of the ones that I played in Legend of Pipi that was most notable was Miss Dragon. Miss Dragon is, of course, a large, monstrous creature. She's a dragon. Wow, who'd have thunk it? But she's also a little bit of a chicken, as you can see from these designs. We wanted her mannerisms to be stupid at the end of the day. So some of the deliveries I did for her are more vicious. With some of our monster screams, I have mixed in actual other recordings into it and some heavily distorted versions of my voice. But that's typical for when you're doing monster roars and whatnot. It's hard to find someone who's able to do the perfect one right off the bat if it's a large creature without layering other things in, which is also going to be common for sound design. She's also pitched down a little bit, and I've added a slight chorus effect onto her, which is replication of the audio signal itself in order to give the feeling of there being multiple pitches. And Pipi is also just me very, very, very nonchalantly in the call with the animatic being shown to me, muting myself on Discord, opening up Audition, and going, I need to make Animal Crossing noises really, really fast. How do we do a bunch of syllables really fast? Maybe do a falsetto and just go. So this is some of the voice that I did for her specifically is ADR, which is where you record to the sounds that are unfolding on screen. And keep in mind, a little bit of, but also that's inhaling snort from issue that I've had with my uvula smacking the back of my throat. And then Pipi was literally done in one take. The fact that there's no other recordings originally of me doing that line is funny. Anyway, this is also without any of the music. So that way you can get the tone as well. You'll also hear some stretching in the very beginning to make it sound droning and uncomfortable. And that was hidden a little bit more under the music, but it'll be more prominent here. I wanted her to sound as uncomfortable as possible, so it's just and then the sounds of her eyes shutting, I was told by my director, make it similar to the sound of Squidward's eyes shutting in SpongeBob, which is just. So I recorded myself doing that about 30 times, and I found 2 awesome takes for it. Always record more than you think you do in any medium. So many heads nodding. I love that. And also, there's the king, which is depressed man. He's so old, so tired. The one light of his life is gone. Hopefully not forever. And then there's also the course, which is a combination of me doing a couple of different sounds.
You can't be serious about... Hey, where are you going?
And then it was never seen again. All right, we're gonna get into a bit more of the sound design and mixing section now. So this is gonna require me to go over just a little bit of the most basics of tools. The 3 that I wanted to talk about, and the third is really more of a category than anything. Equalizer. This thing over in the top right, that is a parametric EQ. That white line is what is being raised and cut above a certain horizon that's around the middle section between the first, second, and third note here. A lot of that low end is being rolled off because you don't need that in the human voice, and it just adds mud to the mix that other things could much better shine through. A bit of boxiness at 500 hertz. You raise a little bit around 3K hertz because that's where the human voice is most prominent at, and your brain is literally hardwired to want to recognize more in that. So if it's a busy mix, raise that up just a little bit, but be careful because the S's are also there and they can suck. And then whoever made this one wanted to add a little bit more sparkle, so they raised the upper spectrum. And this over here is a compressor. All this does is reduce the dynamics of the sound. Quiet stuff gets louder if you have makeup gain, and louder stuff gets quieter, which you can see here. That orange is what's currently smacking down onto this. This might be a sidechain compression here, I believe. And it has the attack, which is how fast it goes, the release, which is how much it releases once it hits the threshold. It has a ratio, so like how much compression is it doing? And then it has makeup gain, which for this one, it's none. This person just wanted stuff to be quieter. Modulation is weird though. It's where you get flangers, phasers, chorus, pitch. Think like wobbly, warbly, weird stuff, robots, aliens, everything in between. And it's also very common that you hear these on instruments all the time, probably every day. When you're recording anything, it doesn't matter if it's a sound effect, if it's your Foley, if it's your ambient nature, or if it's the voice acting, people might say, I want to fix it in post. Wonderful. Look at me. No 1,000-yard stare yet. Yeah, it's very possible sometimes. Is it clipping? It's kind of hard to treat without special plugins to repair it because it's all samples of individual little nodes collecting this data. And those nodes are now corrupted, so I can't figure out what exactly it's supposed to sound like. But thankfully, Isotope RX can. And if you record it at 32-bit float, which gives us way more data to work with, that program can analyze more of it and get me more of that, which is cool. And noise, I don't know, maybe you got like an AC on that you forgot to turn off in the house that's a window unit, and it's like, it's adding a little bit, but it's all low frequency. That's fine. You can remove a little bit of that. Did you drink too much coffee and ice cream and sand, and now you got smackety crackly mouth sounds? That's not too awful most of the time. But then sometimes somebody will just come up to me and be like, you gotta fix it in post. I'm so sorry. And let me tell you, you got super heavy clipping and no 32-bit float, I'm suffering. You got leaf blowers, dogs barking, 700-pound children upstairs in your neighbor's apartment that are running around at 5 a.m. to 5 a.m. the next day, every day, 24 hours a day. It's like Waffle House for annoyance. And you got a low fidelity file with distortion and muffled acoustics? Well, that's like trying to restore this image. Do I look like I know what a jerk is? You might as well entirely redraw the image at that point or just re-record whatever it was. And if you recorded in an untreated cave, even if the scene's in a cave, it's not gonna sound like the right cave. The engineer's gonna sit there like this, like I did once. You're gonna sit there like Shinji Ikari and go, but yes, sound design. Sound, you want to think about material, physics, and evoking motion. The sound of me smacking a metal bottle on a table that is probably plastic sounds a little bit artificial. If I smack it against something that is a thinner material made out of metal that resonates more, it's gonna sound not as full, but it's gonna sound higher pitch. Think about like, if you're looking at a door slamming, or a door shutting, what's the door made out of? What's the hinges made out of? How old is it? How hard is it being slammed? What's the tone of the story? Do I want it to sound scary or comedic? And another important part of sound design, how much time do we have left, by the way? We got 30 minutes? Perfect. All right, I'll have to speed up a little bit then. Hyper-realism. Sound design is lying, and your brain likes that. You have an expectation that you're gonna have. When you hear a gun in a movie or in a video game, you're gonna hear the firing of the barrel, the smacking back of the bolt opening on the receiver, and the round reciprocating, and all the mechanisms moving. In real life, that stuff sounds exactly like fireworks. You do not hear the nuances of metal moving around because the explosion that just happened in that chamber is so much louder. Same thing with punches. Most real punches that do physically hurt people a lot and break bones, they sound kind of like wet smacks in comparison to what you'd expect in real life. So you take every aspect that you want to add to your sound design and you crank it to 11. Start with more and then take away some as you feel like it's appropriate. Footsteps are the weirdest one for this. You'll recognize when it sounds like you should have, demonias on concrete, but instead it sounds like Russian clogs on swamp water. And constructing a sound takes multiple tracks and layers. Same thing that I just explained with how firearms and video games and animation are done. We're adding the other mechanical aspects that you're physically seeing and have come to expect, and we're cranking them up to an unrealistic degree. It makes stuff super satisfying, and it helps tie those visuals together. So when you break down a sound, think about those materials involved. What's the physics? Where does it occupy the frequency spectrum? And there's little bits of things that you're going to add as a cherries on top that are called sweeteners. They're little tiny things that add just some slight character to it. And so for that, I'd like to show you some of the sound effects in Undertale Yellow. The final version of this arrow being shot out like a cannon at, but as it's being shot, it's not just arrow sounds. It's a lot of stuff happening all at once. So looking at the visuals, I was like, what can I have for the bass? There's smoke, so we start with some cannon fire. So for the middle section, we need something that's got some good transient, which is that very fast, like snappiness to the sound starting very suddenly. So we got more traditional sound for this. And the sweetener is, if you recognize it, that is the attack sound from Undertale and Undertale Yellow, because Clover is being attacked in this scene. So I felt like it was appropriate to add for a little bit of character. And for the tails, wanted it to look like fireworks because it's still trailing like smoke. There's some powerful energy happening there. And all together, let's go back, actually. Mids. Bass. Sweeteners. I play that little slime. I was like, that is such a specific motion it's doing. So it's thinking its head back, it's stupid, it's adorable. So I just went this to sound as gross as possible and then layered it with some slime sound effects, which are actually from a gore pack for a horror thing. You would not believe how incredibly versatile gore sound effects will be for anything you'd like. So, general mixing tips. This is largely going to be subjective, but you want a loudness level, which is an entirely different measurement from decibels. It's much more complicated to explain, but literally just loops means loudness. You want your overall mix level to be -12 to -14 decibels. Dialogue, you want to be more prevalent than anything else. And a bit of sound effects too, mixed in with that, trading off. Ambience, you want to be much more subtle, -30 to -45. And music, you kind of want it to be, you want it to be present, but you don't want it to overtake everything unless that's what you'd like to do. And these aren't hard and fast rules. As long as it achieves a desired effect, like say you've added the ambient sound for a snowstorm to be now the loudest thing in the scene, that's realistic. If someone's in a snowstorm, you're not hearing the guys talking, they're trying to get to shelter. And with other things, there's EQ in front of the compressor, makes a warmer and louder tone. EQ after compressor produces a cleaner and clearer sound. I wish I'd had the examples to do that right now, but I have to move a little bit faster. For voices, cut everything below 80 to 100 hertz. You don't need that. That's the natural sound of your room having radiating heat off of the walls. That's literally why you can't stop hearing stuff at night. Sound is just energy. Vocals are the most sensitive to changes. So when you compress it a little. EQ it a little. You modulate it a little. Never use more than 30% reverb or you're not going to hear anything. Also, set up your sessions tracks correctly or you're going to go insane. Imagine doing digital illustration, painted piece. You don't remember what any of the layers are. They don't make any sense. You're going back and you're tearing all your hair out. That Final Fantasy XIV character is the most complicated thing you've ever done in your life and you don't know what layer those belt buckles were on. There's 50 of them. Radiating heat off of the walls. That's literally why you can't stop hearing stuff at night. Sound is just energy. Vocals are the most sensitive to changes. So when you compress it a little. EQ it a little. You modulate it a little. Never use more than 30% reverb or you're not going to hear anything. Also, set up your sessions tracks correctly or you're going to go insane. Imagine doing digital illustration, painted piece. You don't remember what any of the layers are. They don't make any sense. You're going back and you're tearing all your hair out. that Final Fantasy XIV character is the most complicated thing you've ever done in your life, and you don't know what layer those belt buckles were on. There's 50 of them. I'm speaking for everybody else in that. Anyway, one of the things that I would like to show most with the engineering and voice acting side is for Monkey Wrench. I would like to show you a preview of the voice modulation that we're doing for this. So we have Tezzeri. She is an elegant law officer. Those were the 3 words that I was given as my descriptor for figuring out how do we modulate her voice. Zarel also gave me a much more simple version of the modulation that he wanted to go with. It was just to make her sound a little bit robotic, but not crunchy. And as you can see, her design with her facial expressions here, she has a decent variety of range here. Annoyance, annoyance, anger, annoyance, rage. Just kidding, there's far more. Oops, all annoyance. So, the modulation that I made for her, I wanted it to sound clean, but I didn't want it to sound too clean. I wanted it to sound a little bit gritty, but I didn't want it to sound disgusting. I wanted her to sound like, it's weird to say this, she needed to sound like a triangle, was what my supervisor said. And I'm like, what does a triangle sound like? I used a whole lot of triangle sawtooth waves in order to make sure that I actually was using as many triangles and as many 33% ratios as possible, because now it's getting weird. And the result is, I like her. She needed to sound gentle, but she needed to sound authoritative when she needed to, so.
I see. Well, Punty, you'll be assigned a temporary living space as we continue to search for any sign of others such as yourself.
And for an example of keeping in mind what that sounds like, listen to what this raw dialogue sounds like. No compression, no noise removal, nothing.
Killix, 62. Is this assessment accurate?
Worth noting, this is meant to be a more authoritative scene. She even has her face completely cast in shadow in our animatic, which is indicating that she is meant to be threatening in this scene. So, adding that same modulation, it gets a little bit better there.
Killix, 62. Is this assessment accurate?
I wanted to push it slightly further. I wanted to see if I could accentuate her performance and her demeanor in this scene by adding a pitch shift that is automated, which is kind of like tweening for an animator, as if she's slowly getting to the point where she's like, oh no.
I see. Well, Punty, you'll be assigned a temporary living space as we continue to search for any sign of others such as yourself.
A little bit to ramp in, and then it smacks him. But she's not the only one that we're going to be having as a new character debuting. We're going to have Dolian, too. He's real fun. Megalomaniacal mechanical abomination. He does not sound as clean. He sounds pretty nasty. He's about the size of a house as well. And so his raw performance, I know exactly what they're going for. It's a performance that is really intended to be modulated. It's very gritty sounding, and by itself, it might not sound as powerful as you'd like it to.
Centuries of work, my work. The very future is in that box. Why can you not bring them directly to me?
So the same thing with Tezzeri, but he's meant to sound much nastier. Gritty, bubbly. There's a slight glitch distortion there. But we have also a pitch shift that is, for a couple of pointed sections, really heavily pitched down. Not subtle like Tezzeri's.
Centuries of work, my work. The very future is in that box. Why can you not bring them directly to me?
And then the scene is going to be taking place in a very hollow area, and it's going to have a lot of reverb on it. So adding reverb to these sort of monstrous characters helps build up a little bit more of the tone and makes it feel like you're trapped in a den of a cave. This is the bear that's about to maul you. It's not as afraid of you.
Centuries of work, my work. The very future is in that box. Why can you not bring them directly to me?
Oh yeah, reverb is one of those things where like once you realize, oh, I can just make stuff sound big, you're going to immediately be hit with the temptation to use way too much of it. I still have to stop myself all the time. I actually dialed it back like 3 times while rendering this.
Sounds a lot like Vilgax from the original Ben 10.
Oh my god, I had never even placed that together.
It played, and I'm sitting there like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
But yeah, that's how important modulation can be for these characters as well. Just to go back and show a little bit more. Actually, what are we on time? Love to be right. Oh yeah, it definitely works. But yeah, I was not allowed to show too much of Monkey Wrench, unfortunately. I would have loved to have shown you exactly one more thing, and it would have been amazing and awesome. But now you'll just have to wait for it to come out like regular people. I'm sorry. But yeah. For resources for all these, for voice acting, voiceactingclub.com, their forum and their Discord, they are phenomenal resources. Kira Buckland basically runs this community with a couple of other people. I believe Sean Chiplock is also involved with them, and they do free lectures on their Discord servers at times. They have tons of community resources, guides on how to start up, even doing your own self-produced voice acting reels. And they also have rate guides. I was not allowed to show too much of Monkey Wrench, unfortunately. I would have loved to have shown you exactly one more thing, and it would have been amazing and awesome. But now you'll just have to wait for it to come out like regular people. I'm sorry. But yeah, for resources for all these, for voice acting, voiceactingclub.com, their forum and their Discord, they are phenomenal resources. Kira Buckland basically runs this community with a couple of other people. I believe Sean Chiplock is also involved with them, and they do free lectures on their Discord servers at times. They have tons of community resources, guides on how to start up, even doing your own self-produced voice acting reels. And they also have rate guides. And if you're trying to get more into stuff outside of the indie scene, the GVAA rate guide is also a fantastic one that is continuously updated to keep you competitive. That way, you're not underselling yourself, and you're still making good money doing something that you love doing, if you get to the point where you're getting paid roles. A lot of my roles have not been paid, in fact, especially Pipi. That was all volunteer project. Let's see. For DAWs, Audacity is a free one. It does have destructive editing, however, so whenever you implement an effect, it breaks it into the file. It's not my favorite for that reason. I would normally say Adobe Audition's a good one to go with, but I've been trying to get away from the Adobe Suite myself lately and been having more errors with it. So I recommend Reaper. It is $60 one-time purchase, 6 to 8 years of updates for the newest version. You get third-party plugins that are compatible with it like crazy. It is basically Pro Tools, but it can run on a potato, and it's also industry standard for game design, for when you're implementing like game audio. For sound effects, I recommend freesound.org, which is what everybody will say, but also the Sonus GDC yearly gaming bundles. They are free, and it is over 500 gigabytes. And if I remember correctly, 30,000 sound effects that are professional quality, that you can use in anything royalty-free. You will find other packs out there that are copyrighted, but if you're doing a larger scale project, or if you're doing anything that's going to have eyes on it, and it's especially for profit, we do still have the same thing with copyright infringement in sound design. So just keep that in mind. Don't skirt too close to the sun. And for sound design resources, Marshall McGee is one of my favorite YouTubers. He actually was how I started doing more of my own self-teaching for sound design, which is largely self-taught for me. He breaks down things like what do guns really sound like, and going through a bit of his particular processes in his DAW, and makes it very easily digestible. In fact, making Halo Beam Rifle sound with just an iPhone mic is one of his perfect examples of like, you don't have a huge barrier to entry with learning how to do this stuff. You can have lots of fun with it. And for mixing and engineering, honestly, a lot of it's going to be practice, trial and error. It's kind of like acting or drawing. You just got to do it over and over again. But you will find frequency cheat sheets all the time that will show you, hey, here's where you can EQ or compress or little tiny things. But every voice is different. Every sound is different. Every tool is different. Just do it till it sounds right. Let the vein under forehead, not the forehead on your vein, pop a little bit. Because if you're doing it and leaning into it just shamelessly, this is how you're gonna look and feel when you do it right. You're gonna look exactly like that. They're gonna be like, I need you to be this horrible kaiju character, okay? If you don't look like that and sound like that, you're not believable. You have to understand, you're the jester now. It is 1450. You are dying of bubonic plague, and the Westminster Baron has looked at your diseased ass and gone, can you do that funny dragon noise for me? And you're like, uh-huh.